What's up, guys? Chris Fluke here, Chris Fluke Podcast number 78. Man, I just was walking over here from the house to the barn, to our wonderful barn gym, and I took a little step and I felt a little jolt in the low back, and I was wondering, did I just tweak a little, did I just knock something out of whack there? Turns out I'm all right, I think, but we'll see when I get out of this little stool here, see how we're feeling here, man. I started this program, Dan John's post-deployment program. Long story short, I'm just doing some stuff that I am not great at. I want my barbell snatch to get better. So I'm working on snatch grip deadlifts, I'm working on overhead squats, I'm working on half kneeling presses, and I'm working on pull-ups. That's pretty much the bulk of it, right? In addition to that, you do some, I guess you could call it mobility stuff, just some stuff to try to feel good. It's a lot of stuff in the neck, thoracic, spine, hips. That's kind of what we're working on. And there's some carries in between here. Waiters walk, rack carry with a kettlebell, suitcase carry with a kettlebell. Now, one thing that is absolutely humbling is doing high rep overhead squats. For example, week 1 you do one set of 25. I just had an empty bar here. I did 55 pounds then for 55 pounds for 25. All right, and my heart rate was jacked up, and I felt a little lame. I felt a little weak after that set. But anyhow, you know, it's something I need to work on. I'm trying to drive my overhead squat up, see if I can get my overhead squat somewhere around what my body weight is. I got a long way to go, though, man. It's been a long time since I weighed 55 pounds, and I got to make some improvements in that. So that's what we're going to be doing. With the program, though, this is how it is. It's pretty basic. And week 1, you do 25 reps of everything. Week 2, same exercises, 2 sets of 12. Week 3, same exercises, 3 sets of 8. Week 4, same exercise, 4 sets of 5. So you're doing anywhere from 20 to 25 reps. 20 to 25 reps. Which is one of these old school protocols. I think it was DeLorme. You know, the stuff's been around forever. Keep the reps up. 25 seems to be the sweet spot. And that's kind of what this program's following. Mix in some mobility, carry some weight around, and at the end of the day, you get a pretty good session in there. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been walking, not as much as I was. Just this football season, man. You know, I coach high school football, and it takes up a ton of time. So, not that it's an excuse, but I'm putting my extra steps in on the football field as opposed to getting out in nature, which it's not great, not ideal, but it is what it is. So, you know, you get about 3,000 to 4,000 extra steps in during a football practice. I'm doing that instead of taking an hour walk. So, it is what it is right now. So, walking. My conditioning, I forgot about this. In addition to that program there, I'm doing some kettlebell conditioning. I got this from the legendary kettlebell, the Russian, Pavel Tsatsouline, in his book, The Quick and the Dead. 2 ideas. Basically, I'm doing 20 kettlebell snatches every 4 minutes. So you set the timer up. It says to follow this 4-minute thing, but it's a lot of rest time in there, which is fine, I guess. But basically, one option is to do 20 on the right hand, wait a few minutes, 20 on the left hand. You do that a few times. All right, you get to about 80 to 120 reps. Or no, not even that. I mean, you get to about 40 to 120 reps. It's really just going to vary. And he wants you to kind of stagger and do what you do. You know, if you go up in weight, maybe you just do 20 and 20. If you do it 2 or 3 times, maybe at the end of it, you're doing 60 on each side. That's one option. 20 and 20 is one option. The other option is doing 10 right, 10 left, and then taking that 3+ minute break. So you're still doing 20 reps every 4 minutes. The other option is 4 sets of 5. And you do 4 sets of 5. So you do 5 right, 5 left, 5 right, 5 left, and then you rest for the remainder of that 4 minutes. With the different reps scheme, you're going to do different weights. That 4 sets of 5, you might be doing a 60. The sets of 10, you might be doing a 50. The sets of 20, you might be doing a 35, okay? And then you want to go up when you get to a certain point. Whenever you feel uncomfortable with it, you go up 5 pounds and you keep at it, right? For females, you know, your set of, you know, your set of 5 might be around 40 if you're really good at it, right? If you could do the kettlebell snatch test, you know, you're going to do about 40 pounds for 5, maybe 45. You're going to do the 35-pounder for 10 and 10. And then you're going to do about 20, 25 pounds for 20 reps. That is if you're good and you know what you're doing there. 20 reps of a kettlebell snatch, just like the overhead squat, you're using a lighter load, and it gets the heart rate going, man. It taxes the grip, gets the forearm blasted a little bit, and it gets pretty hard. So at least once a week, I'm mixing that in. The other thing I'm doing once, maybe twice a week, it just depends on time. I've got the 44-kilogram kettlebell on the front porch. If I get a little bit of time, say I'm hanging out with Emmy, if Emmy's, preoccupied doing something, and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to do some kettlebell swings here, all right? Just give me a little bit of space. She's cool with it. The other day we came up to the gym, same idea. I was like, I'm going to do some swings. We were playing wiffle ball. We had all this other stuff going on. She puts up her rings. She hangs from her rings and does some spinneroo. Luckily, we have a good little girl, and she's been able to kind of let me do some stuff. Get a little bit of kettlebell action in here with her, and it's been nice because she loves coming up to the gym. She loves hanging out, and I'm just going to work out and be as active as possible around her in the hopes that she finds interest in it, which it seems that she does, and not really push anything, and just hope that she she's super active. She's out taking care of the horses. She's doing fitness stuff. She's hanging with me. When I have people working out, she does her own little workouts in the living room. It's cute, but anyhow, totally got sidetracked. So I got the kettlebell in the living room, right? Now you could do this in your house. You set a timer, all right? Every 3 minutes you do 10 swings. It's got to be a heavy weight. I'm using 44 kilograms, which is almost 100 pounds. I probably could do a little bit more. You know what? No, it is fine. I could do more reps with that, but 10 is a perfect number. And the idea is not to just get your heart rate to jump out of your chest. The idea is to get this powerful snap. You're almost conditioning yourself to be powerful. And this is the stuff that's going to last a lifetime, is that powerful hip explosion. If you train yourself and you stay sharp there, you're going to be able to move. The hips, they feel a little bit more open. They feel a little bit more loose. You're going to build those muscles, the hamstrings, the glutes, those big, powerful muscles in your posterior. Those are the muscles that are going to keep you young for the most part, right? You want to have some big, strong, powerful legs. And the stronger you are now, it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40. The stronger you are now, the stronger you're going to be when you're 60, 70, and 80. And that's what we need to keep in mind. Why it's like, people train for the wrong reasons, in my opinion, where they just want to look good. It's all about aesthetics and stuff like that. But really, it's like, who cares how good you look when you're 30 if you're struggling to get up when you're 50 or 60, right? We want to build big, strong, powerful bodies now so that they last the test of time. I'm not telling you to become a power lifter and drive your deadlift up to as much weight as possible. I'm telling you, let's get some good overall body strength here. Let's be strong, let's stay strong, and let's age to the best of our ability, all right? So I got my post-deployment plan. I already talked about the strength moves I'm doing. I talked about the kettlebell snatch conditioning, kettlebell swing conditioning. Every 3 minutes you do 10 reps of a kettlebell swing with a very heavy weight, okay? A heavy weight that you could do good form with, all right, where you're popping into it and you're squeezing the glutes at the top. You do that for 30 minutes, okay? So, you're doing 10 sets every 3 minutes, 100 reps, all right? You could do that in your living room. You could get some powerful conditioning work in without really overexerting yourself. And, some people like to warm up, but I don't want to say never. No, I guess I don't. I don't warm up when I'm doing this kettlebell exercise. I get the 44 out, and I just start hammering them. That's it. First set or two, you're just kind of warming up the system, and then at the end, by the time you get rolling there, you're feeling good. You're feeling like a champion. So that's what I'm doing workout-wise. I keep you guys posted here. Probably about this is going to last for another 2 weeks roughly. From there, who knows what, man. Maybe we'll get some Olympic lifting going there because I do have that goal to get a barbell snatch of my body weight. And, the year's running out. What are we in, September? I might have to hit that hard October, November, and then say a couple prayers and do whatever I got to do to get there in December maybe. But so that's the goal, right? The goal for me this year was to do a clean and strict military press with my body weight. So a clean, strict press with your body weight. I did that. I can do that just about any day of the week, I feel like. But the barbell snatch is a technical lift, and I need a lot of work. So that's why we're working that overhead squat and the snatch grip deadlift. Now, that's what I'm doing in the weight room. My time, man, outside of the gym, outside of work, outside of football, outside of being a dad and a great partner for Marisa, if she's listening to this. I don't know if she'll agree with that, but I spend a lot of time just thinking about all kinds of stuff. And, we have a kid that works with us and with our football team, and, he's not able to play football because when he was young, they found a tumor in his brain. They operated on him, and while operating on him, he had a stroke. And, his right arm is kind of hooked a little bit where, it just, that in his leg, it's just not functioning at a level that he could really run and move optimally. So what does he do? His younger brother's on the team, and Jack's our guy. He helps out with setting practice up. He gets water ready. He makes sure the other managers know what they're doing. And when I heard that story, I was just like, it was at a time when, people are up in arms about a lot of stuff, right? And I was like starting to lose my mind in the summer with some little stuff that just started building up, bank account hacked, some scammers were using it to funnel money around. That's trying to get resolved. We got somebody complaining about what we were doing out here, and we had a zoning hearing and all this other stuff. And then I'm hearing stories. You're seeing stuff in the news about Afghanistan. I heard an interview with a woman named Yunmi Park about North Korea and her life growing up in North Korea, like literally hungry, literally eating insects. That's what they kept them hungry because they wanted the people to just think about what their next meal is going to be and if they're going to be able to eat that day. And they didn't want them thinking about all the other evil that was going on there, man. And I think about just hearing some other people too. Ayan Hirsi Ali, I believe is her name. She was from Somalia. The stuff that she had to escape just to get to America, right? Totally crazy. And then here I'm thinking, I'm complaining about, a bank account. They make that joke. What is that? First world problems. That's kind of what we're at here, man. All of these little minor things really pale in comparison to what's going on the grand scale. In America here, they talk about the 1%, right? The 1% is evil. They're doing all this other stuff. Well, on the grand scale, in the world, we are 1%. If you're making over $30-something thousand, you're in the 1% of the world economy. You're at the top 1% of that, right? So it's always about perspective, and it's always about trying to keep things in perspective. And I was listening to Jordan Peterson tell a story when his daughter was sick with all kinds of stuff, like terrible arthritis and all this other stuff, hip, ankle replacements, and this and that. And he talked about his experience going to the sick kid hospital, basically the ward. I'll just share my story instead of sharing the Jordan Peterson one. Amelia, our daughter, was sick. She had a bunch of stuff going on, and we didn't know what it was, man. Long story short, we're in the hospital for 5 days. Her body's totally inflamed. Her inflammation number's like 113. It should have been 6 or 7. It was just crazy. And we're starting to pinpoint, we have a general idea on what happened, but it was just like a perfect storm of all of these things that just happened at once. And they at the end of the day, they just thought that she had some sort of inflammatory bowel disease, like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, right? Inflammation sky high in her body. She had these wounds. She had these fistulas. Her legs would just be swollen. She would just be so uncomfortable sometimes, and fevers and, all this other stuff was going on for a couple months of our lives, right? 6, 7, 8 months of our lives. And we had to go to the Children's Hospital here in the Lehigh Valley. Luckily, they have one here at the hospital that we're involved with. And, you go in there and you look around and you're just like, it's got to be the worst place to be. Like, if you think your life is kind of in a bad place right now and the world's out to get you, it's like going to one of those hospitals, going to that unit right there, and you see a kid hooked up getting his treatment for cancer. You see some other kids there, somebody's falling asleep here. You could tell these other kids are sick. They don't have hair, things like that. And so I realized our own personal hell, we had a sick daughter for 6 to 8 months, kind of paled in comparison to what other families and other kids and people in other countries are going through right now. So we have to keep the perspective in mind. Life's not that bad, guys. You don't want to be comparing your hell to somebody else's hell, but we're all kind of having our own little battles going on here. And at the end of the day, man, you're living in a country where you're able to do a lot of stuff and, just try to the best of your ability. I lose perspective all the time with stuff, right? I just admitted it earlier with my bank account and all that. So I needed these reminders. And, I was thinking about that kids ward, man, and I'm just glad that we haven't been there in a little bit, and I hope we could stay out of there for a while. So perspective, man, that's what I've been thinking about, all right? Now, speaking of, coaching football, listening to these different interviews, podcasts, stuff like that, Tony Dungy's was a great football coach. Now he appears to be a great man, period, and he had some great books out. When I first started coaching, I read Quiet Strength, read Uncommon, read Mentor Leader. Well, now it's been about 10 years, 12 years, and I'm like, I'm going to give these books a listen to, and they're available on the app I use, Scribed, who maybe they should sponsor this podcast because it's the best app out there. $46 a year, and I'm hammering through, 35, whatever it is. Let's just say 30 books a year I use on there, and it's $45. They have audio books. They have normal books. They have PDFs. They don't have everything that you want, but they have a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff too. They have sheet music. They have strength and conditioning programs. They have PDFs of books that you can't really find. It's pretty cool. It's a great app, man. Basically, what it is people just upload to it, and it creates this huge database of stuff. And anyhow, so I'm listening to Uncommon by Tony Dungy, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying, it reminded me of some stuff that I heard this man Jason Wilson say on Joe Rogan's podcast. And one of his videos went viral because this kid in his class, one of his karate classes, was trying to break a board, and he couldn't break a board. So eventually he just started crying, and the guy kneels down next to him, and he's like, his instructor, man, the karate instructor was just like, hey, man, it's okay to cry. This is a test. It's going to be hard. Just kind of talks him through this thing, like, it's okay, like, cry. Do whatever you need to do. Get those emotions out. Those tears that those tears that are streaming down your face are releasing a certain kind of energy, a certain, some sort of chemical reaction in the body's going on right there as you release these tears. It's always after, you cry a bunch, you end up feeling better because it kind of releases, I don't know, I don't remember what it was. I don't want to say endorphins and speak out of line here, but maybe I will anyway and pretend to be a scientist of some sort. But there's a certain chemical release with these tears. So he's telling this kid, man, it's okay to cry, all right? And then he just talks him through it, and he says, you could break this board, you could do this, blah, blah, blah. This is why we prepare. And, his messaging and Tony Dungy's messaging kind of, they both kind of hit. They both kind of come from the same cloth, man. And, some of these items that come up is, men need to protect and they need to nurture. Jason Wilson said, we need to be able to turn on the lion, but be able to return to the lamb. They talk about the quote, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. We have to have the ability, to be that protector, to be that lion, to be that warrior, but we can't be that person all the time. We can't just be high-strung, ready to crush somebody all the time. We have to be able to bring it back down and nurture. I've got a daughter, and I cannot be that same person that somebody might be with a young boy than they are with a girl. Boys, girls, we are different. When I say protect and nurture, it means that as a male, we need to have kind of both qualities. We need to be able to address both qualities, right? Everybody views the mother as a nurturing type, the father as a protector, but we need to be able to have both of those. We need to be able to fight, right? Not physically, but we need to be able to fight for what we believe in. We need to be able to protect our own. But and in addition to all that, man, when we talk about this stuff, if we are not high strung, but if we are on all the time, if we are trying to be that warrior all the time, we're going to be missing out on opportunities to really teach and educate the people that we work with, because it's gonna ruin the potential for us to kind of understand what other people are going through, because you can't just always push through things, right? We need to take some moments in time to think and to sit back and relax, right? And to try to process what's going on. We can't just hammer through everything. We need to be able to, but we can't always be in that mode, if that makes sense. We need to be able to protect ourselves, but we also need to be able to be like a useful human and not try to fight everybody in the streets, right? We need to be able to protect our family, but we need to also be able to not think everybody's a threat. In addition to that, with Jason Wilson, going along that same lines, our emotions that we do have, they're great servants. They could serve us to do great things, but they're not great masters. We cannot let our negative emotions kind of control what we do. We cannot let past experiences affect today experiences. He talks about time traveling. Like, you don't want your trauma to time travel. Whenever it happened, and you need to experience it, and you need to face it, and you need to get over it. If you need to continue to face it and face it and face it, then that's what you need to do. But you can't let it time travel and affect you for the rest of your life. That's one thing there. When we talk about these emotions, negative things are going to happen to you. You have a few choices in these situations. Can you take that like stoic approach and just keep on? You don't show it. You take it in. It's going on in your brain internally, and then you have to set it to the side and continue doing what you're doing. Can you take that negative experience and let it get in your head and get you flustered, and that's all you're thinking about, and then you're not going to perform at a high level? Or you could face it and you could just kind of go next play and get ready for the next situation that occurs. I think you have three different options. Totally kind of forget it, internalize it a little bit, and then the third one would be the negative one, where you just kind of let it affect you. I think different times call for different things. I would argue that negative approach, where you just keep reliving it, or not reliving it, but if you're letting it affect who you are today in this moment, stuff that happened yesterday, a month ago, a week ago, a year ago, a decade ago. If you're letting that affect who you are in this moment in a negative way, I think you need to overcome, and I think you need to continue to face it. Well, I think I don't want to say the only way, but the best way is probably to set yourself up to face that same experience that you did have somehow, some way. You need to go through it in your mind. Things that you need to face it. If it was something evil that happened to you, you need to maybe relive that moment and kind of help get past it on your terms, not on anybody else's terms. You need to be prepared for it, and you need to work through it. Same with anything that else goes on. I mean, you talk about the sport of football because that's what I'm coaching. It's like bad things happen to you. You're upset about it. Watch it. Learn from it. Don't do it again. Let's move forward, okay? Take control of the situation that's going on. Have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset where past issues, you don't get over them. You don't grow, right? You don't develop. You just say, well, I'm a short kid, so I'm going to stink at football. Or I can't run fast, so I can't do this. Or my mom and dad don't read, so I'm not going to read. That's a fixed mindset, man. We got to be able to grow from it. So Jason Wilson, Tony Dungy, it's okay, man. You can nurture your kids. You can show a little bit of vulnerability and be there for them. It doesn't mean you're not a lion. It doesn't mean you're not a warrior. And don't let trauma time travel. Use your emotions as to serve you, not to control you, all right? Now, we got a big week here, man. Colleges, they just kicked off, man. I had a few girls that went back to school. I don't think this year there was any males that were going back to school. But anyway, Gabby, Taya, Cam, Taylor. I think that might be it. These girls are back in school. 2 of them are freshmen. 2 of them are sophomores. 2 of them are athletes. They had a good summer, I think. Hopefully they continue. They had a top 25 program where they go to school. Temple University, girls lacrosse. Hopefully they continue to do well. Tay is at Penn State. Gabby is going to Drexel. So these girls are spread out. And basically what needs to happen is that they kind of kickstarted this thought into my mind. And like, how do you get fit? How do you stay fit while you're in college, right? There's going to be all this temptation to not sleep, to eat like crap, and to drink too much, right? That's pretty much college in a nutshell. So what do? I'd say you continue to strength train. Like I said, man, the stronger you are at 20, the stronger you're going to be at 60. Build it. Get fit. Get as strong as possible. Do that by strength training 2 to 3 days a week. It could be something as simple as I described earlier, a push and a pull for the upper body, basically a push and a pull for the lower body, carry some weights, do a little core stuff, go home. Walk as much as possible. You're probably not going to have a car at college. If you're in a city, you don't, and if you're a freshman, you don't, right? So go walk everywhere. Track some steps, man. Put in some serious numbers. 10,000, that's lame. Double it. You get to 20. No, I'm just kidding. 20,000 is a lot, man. Mark Bell's got a challenge going on for September. 20,000 steps a day. That's crazy, man. I don't want to sound like a sissy, but I don't even know if I could pull that off right now. Anyhow, walk as much as possible, college kids, man. 12,000, 15,000. Do something, man. Exceed the norm. If the norm is 10,000, if that's your average, then get more, okay? Eating window. Your schedule's going to be so messed up. I would recommend, I think it's going to be hard to fight the temptation of eating some junk, right? You're at college, you're by yourself for the first time in your life. So this is what I would do. Put it in an eating window. Basically fast, whatever you want to call it, time-restricted eating. Keep your window to like 10 hours. If you know you're going to be out late, maybe you skip breakfast one day, all right? And if you know you're going to go out to dinner at 8 o'clock, maybe you don't eat till lunch. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know the best way to go about it because I don't know what your lifestyle's like at college, but try to have an eating window where you're eating within a 10 or 12-hour span. No more than 12, probably no less than 8, okay? 10 seems to be the sweet spot, but anywhere from 8 to 12 hours, that's when you eat. For the rest of the time, you don't eat, okay? How's that sound? It's going to be a way that if you do eat some junk, you'll still be able to control your calorie intake, which could hopefully keep you at a pretty much status quo in regards to, I guess, calories in for the week, right? Now, last thing is sleep. it's a lot to ask for, right? For a college kid to get a good night's rest, but try to have some sort of consistent sleep schedule. I think some of these kids that are athletes, they got to get up early for class. Try to keep your bedtime the same, or try to keep your wake up the same. Maybe you do that. Maybe you have to take a nap if you have a late night and you get up at 8 or 9. Maybe you need a nap midday, whatever. But try to get some sort of consistency with the schedule. Wake up at the same time every day if you can. If you can't, try to do it as many days as possible. Sleep's important. Think about this book, Why Sleep Matters, I think is what the name was, and just little stuff, your focus, your concentration. If you're an athlete, all of these little things, your reaction time, they're all affected by sleep, right? So if you don't get sleep, it's going to affect your play on the field, period. And then if you're a student in college and you're not playing a sport, lack of sleep is going to, it's going to affect it's going to affect your brain. It's going to affect just your ability to listen. It's going to affect your ability to learn. And all of that is just going to affect your ability to be the best student possible, right? So try to get some sort of consistency with your sleep, man. Sorry, not man, girls. All right. Next thing, man. Football, right? We talked about I have a few big lessons that I learned this year, early in the season here so far, man. We're having a rough start to our year, and I remember a story back in the day. This guy Keith Venanzi, man, great wrestling coach, junior high coach in our area here, and I think the one year. Anyhow, yeah, he was a good guy, man. Always, man. It worked out hard. He was probably in his 50s, and the dude was ripped. Good leader, good role model. These kids looked up to him at the school that he was at, and the school had a good program. And he told me different strokes for different folks. He said for these kids coming into these kids coming in, right? You have some kids that are really high-level kids, and you have certain expectations for them, and you need to hold them to those standards, right? And then you have that new kid coming in where you're just trying to encourage them to play sports, right? This is junior high. And maybe you have that kid that never played a sport, but he's a bigger kid, and maybe he felt, just didn't feel good about his body, never really wanted to play sports, nothing worked for him. But now you get him out for wrestling, right? And you try to teach him a few things, and you try to build a little bit of confidence, and you try to build up his self-esteem. And if his mom says that they're going somewhere on a Friday and they're going to miss a practice, you might be okay with that, because the big picture is you're trying to get this kid, to enjoy the sport, right? Whereas some of those other kids, that they're already in, and that we're not missing practice on Friday. You're one of the leaders on the team. You got to show up and do this, right? Different strokes for different folks, different rules, right? You have your standards. You don't let, you have some rules that are like, hey, don't cuss at your teacher. Don't fight. Don't do anything that's going to negatively affect this team, and you can define that any way you want, right? Those are the hard line rules. But then there's going to be some wiggle room, some gray area rules, and you have to take in a kid's experience. You have to take in a kid's mental state. You have to take in the kid's home life, right? You got that kid that doesn't want to go home, and you're like, man, what's going on here? You might give that kid some extra responsibilities. You might have him do this or that just so he could spend some less time at home. You have a kid that their dad is just on them, or their mom is just on them all the time about every little thing, and they're not kind to him or her. So what do? That kid's pretty much, I think it was Tom Brady's coach that was like, hey, if a kid gets dealt shit at home, we're going to give him ice cream at practice. And if the kid gets nothing but ice cream at home, we're going to have to give him a little bit of shit. So you have to take into account what their home life's like. You have to take into account their experience level, their mental state, all of this stuff that's going on, man. You can't just be this hard line, this is how we're doing it, my way or the highway. Those guys don't last anymore. You can't really coach that way. There's too many factors going on. There's too many variables, and just the world's a little bit different now with all these activities, with parenting. Like, both parents are working more now, and you got to kind of get to know these kids to the best of your ability so that you could help them be the best that they could be, right? So I thought that was a great lesson, and I was reminded of that earlier this year with some of our kids on the team. And another thing, as we start to close this podcast out, as we were talking about the football season, we had a scrimmage this year, and one of their seniors had this devastating lower leg injury to the point that it could have been a compound fracture. I didn't even get the final word on that, but so he's a senior. He woke up that day probably pumped, senior year starting. He's got a scrimmage. Fast forward a few hours, he's out for the season, probably needed surgery. he's not going to be able to walk for a little bit, might not ever play football again, right? So you never know when your sports are going to be over, right? It could happen at the blink of an eye. That being said, everything that we do could end, like now, tomorrow, whenever. So we got to kind of maximize it to the best of our ability. You never know when you're going to go, right? I think, that was an old rap song back in the day. So you never know, when things are going to, just totally stop for you, right? It could be today, it could be in a week, it could be in a month, it could be in a year. Maximize it, man. Enjoy every moment. Have some fun with it. And I'm going to send this out as we close. I started reading Benjamin Franklin's his biography written by Walter Isaacson. And, everything that's been going on this year, having a young daughter going through this COVID stuff, I'm starting to think about all of the long-term ramifications of the lack of socialization, right? I don't want to be critical of anybody that's a parent. But let's just say that you're a parent and you were really concerned about some stuff and your kid didn't get out for a year and a half. When you're this young, when Emmy's like 3, if she misses out on a year and a half of socialization, that's going to have some serious long-term effects. You got to kind of get your kids, this is just based off what I've read and what I've heard in interviews and listening to psychologists talk. It's like you have this window, age 3 and 4, that you really need to get them sociable, need to get them to know how to play, to be considerate of others, to not be violent, not answer with physical violence, things like that, right? You need to get them to be socialized. And if they don't get it by 4 years old, then they're going to start going to school. And if they don't have these skills kind of figured out, then they might be that kid that kind of gets ostracized, it gets a little bit isolated, and then all of that is just going to continue to compound, right? And it all kind of stems back to these early years where you have to kind of socialize them to the best of their ability so that adults enjoy, so that kids want to play games with them, right? Because life is a series of games. The more games that you have, the better off you're going to be. And teaching these kids how to play and how to interact, I'm calling those games. All of these things are little games, and they need to be taught. A lot of kids during this COVID thing, the last year and a half, they didn't have these experiences, and because of that, they're going to lose out on that compounding effect of how to kind of deal and navigate with the world. And Benjamin Franklin said, "Man is a sociable being, and it is, for aught I know, one of the worst punishments to be excluded from society." You think about the prison system and what that does to people. You think about the worst punishment in the world, that's solitary confinement, right? They throw you in a cell and they lock you up there. In American prisons anyway, that's the worst form, right? That's the worst that they could do to somebody. And, that just goes to show the effects of not being able to socialize are. I'm concerned about the kids. School is back for the most part, it seems, where they're actually in person. That's great. Get these kids back together, get them interacting. Sports are going on. All of this stuff here, man. The social gatherings seem to be coming back a little bit, hopefully safely. And, we just got to keep moving forward and doing our job, I think, as a coach, as a parent, as whatever, to get your kid in these situations where they can learn. And if there's less than ideal situations, we're fortunate enough to have a business at our house, and with middle school, youth, middle school and high school and college athletes coming, or just kids in general, and Emmy was able to come out and hang out with them. Now they're older and all that, but she felt like she was kind of part of the crew, which is nice, and they were all super nice to her, so she thought she was cool. We're fortunate to have that during the 2020 COVID stuff, and luckily we found some schools that she was able to go to, and it was cool. And they asked her to wear a mask. It's like, whatever, we'll put on a mask. I'm not going to risk losing a year of socialization just because I don't want her to wear a mask, right? I think that's a problem. That's the flip side of it all, where you have these state-issued mandates going on where schools aren't in, we're closing down, this and that, right? That's one part of the spectrum. The other part is the parent that is just so adamant against one thing that they're willing to put their child's overall development at risk of developing fully because of something like, oh, they want me to wear a mask, they want me to do this, I'm not going to do that. He just won't play that sport, or he just won't go to school there, or we'll just homeschool him, or we'll just do this, or we'll just do that. And at the end of it all, it's like, what are we doing here? Your big political, personal stance here is actually going to be at the detriment of your child. And the whole point, I think, of being a parent is to set your kids up to be, to be an asset to this world, right? And to leave the world a better place than what it was when you got into it, right? Is that not the plan? Is that not what you're supposed to do as a parent? So we got to keep that in mind. Parents, get your kids out, get them doing stuff. You might have to look past a few things that you don't like. I don't like that Emmy's got to wear a mask. I don't like that they got to do a cheek swab of her on the first day. Not the first day, but leading up to it. That's a whole nother thing that I'm just not even going to talk about. But anyhow, they want to test her beforehand, fine. They want to put a mask on her, fine. Whatever. I need her to be in there. I need her having fun with some friends. I need her to be hanging out with kids, her age and a year older, because she needs it, she loves it, and it's going to be the best thing for her socially over the course of her life. So that is that. Ben Franklin knew it in the 1700s. We're still kind of trying to learn that today. So hope you guys like this podcast. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you want to get on the podcast, if you know any good guests, send them my way. I think we're at a point where we're going to start getting some guests in here. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher. I mean, this stuff's out there. Chris Look Podcast. Just look for it. Episode 78. Be on the lookout for some big announcements coming. I think I might have the biggest and best resume coming up potentially for a guest here. We're trying to put something together here. I hope you guys like this one. Peace, everybody.